Yeah?
Oh, wow, what is that? Oh,
All right. I can't hear you, but I'm going to stop recording.
Gotcha.
Okay, cool. All right. I have to go, everybody. The rest of the agenda is up. Thank you all for putting stuff. I'm looking forward to hearing what you come up with. So, talk to everyone later.
Have a good day.
Bye. You too.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Chad, I'm gonna nominate you to lead this since you're now the host.
All right. All right. So we can, I mean, if we've closed out on the PR review discussion, or if anybody has any other points to bring up on that.
Just one more thing would be is probably you can put up the conventions or list of things to keep in mind while they're doing that, so that even that is good to cross-check against. Like, what is idiomatic, what is good and what is not. Sort of conventions, keep a list. Like, probably it would differ for every package as well, like principles or whatever. That also we could try to maintain it.
So you're talking sub-package, readmes or something like that to give full rundown of what that package is intended to do?
Yes, both functionally as well as with respect to performance and like how it's going to behave, and also syntactically what is the conventions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian has some really good materials on that. I can share them and maybe we can link them on Wiki. It's called Code Like a Go Team. Yeah, Code Like the Go Team. So I will link that.
And the other part that might help there is getting templates put together for the PRs and the issues.
Yeah, that'd be good. Help people out first coming.
All right. The next point was the change in GoTip. So the cache path is now in package instead of under source.
Yep, just a public service announcement so that if you see things blow up, you might know where it's happening. I can't merge this PR right now because our CI/CD, I believe, tests against Vigo, and Vigo is not up to date. So, FYI.
Okay. And is that the full source unpack into that, or is that just the modules? Like, is that just the zip file type of module, or does that like it was unpacking all the code in there as well?
Yeah, everything. So everything used to be in GoPath source mod. Now everything is going to be in GoPath package mod.
Okay.
And this changes pretty frequently.
Yeah, it's like not the first time they've changed the location or the name.
Yeah.
But it's totally fine. I mean, we're chasing GoTip, so it's expected.
Then GDocs, setting up the end-to-end environment. Is this from Carolyn? Oh, she's not here.
Yeah, she's not here, but I think that's her. And she's got a PR that's approved, I think, for a basic end-to-end all set up. And it also upgrades, I think, to Go 1 point something beta 2. I can't remember which one now, but instead of Ego. So it switches the CI over.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it builds Go in that end environment. That's right.
Yeah, it pulls and builds from source for that tag.
Wait, I have a question? I saw the PR, but I didn't read through it or try to understand it too much. So Rob, do you know if that means all of our tests are going to be run against Go beta? Even our unit tests?
I think it does upgrade everything. I have to double check because she did a prereq PR that like split out a lot of the build stuff into little script so the make file was easier, and you could sort of do bits at a time. And then she added the end to end later. I just remember seeing the whole and
Awesome. This might make it easier to switch every time there's like a new beta or something, or even building from
yeah,
maybe
just
I don't
update
know.
the tag it's pulling from, and then
Yeah, that'd be great. Then I'll take a look, because that might help with the previous issue.
Mm-hmm.
and I think I have to go back to my day job, so I'll catch up later.
All right. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me. Okay, I haven't looked at the 262, but let's see what that PR is about. Oh, that's splitting up testing. Or sorry, issue, not PR. All right, quick rundown on we're from Aaron looking to split out the test between unit tests for just in-memory local testing, something that's easy to test while you're developing, then integration tests, which would stand up more of the dependencies, everything Docker composed, and then the last one would be a full end-to-end, which that's going to be a lot more involved, and that's going to be between our systems as well, between Proxy and Olympus.
That would be awesome. I want to say it'd be great if we could make it easier to run Go test and kind of maybe pass a flag to indicate what kind of testing environment we want to do, like to say like go test ... it would run everything without any dependencies. And if we maybe pass like, dash storage equals Mongo, it tries to spin up Mongo. Like if you're working on a specific storage implementation, it would be easy to just run those. And then if you're doing end-to-end, then also you can like pass a flag, or maybe even a completely different command is fine, because that one is much bigger. But I haven't looked at that issue or how to solve it from my side, but that's just the thought. I don't know who's working on it or if anybody is. But is everyone okay with like having something like be integrated into like a command line flag, just to say which kind of tests you want to run, and so it will kind of just figure it out?
Like part of the make file?
It's whatever works. I mean, if you make files are totally fine. If you want to say like make end-to-end or just make test or make test, but like as long as we can pass a flag to an implementation. So for example, if I'm working on the GCP storage, I don't want to spin up all the storages just to test the GCP storage. So whatever way it is, I don't know if you can pass arguments. I'm not like too expert on files, but that's kind of what I think is a nice to have.
Yeah, we can set up the two options there, two big options there are feature flags and build tags. So the tags get a little bit are a little bit funky when you're passing them to go test, especially when you're doing the dots. So you get the multiple packages. You have to do the test flags before the dots, and then the flags that you're passing into the tests after.
Wait, sorry, are you talking about build tags or just regular CLI flags?
Flags, sorry, yeah, CLI flags. So like if you want to do -v, it's -v, then dots, then the storage, whatever.
Sure.
And mix those around, then test complains a lot.
We could potentially put those in make files. I mean, we don't have a lot of storage implementations. We could potentially just overload our make file and just say, make Mongo tests, and it will just do that, and then make GCP tests.
Right.
If that works better. That's not a big deal to me personally. But it's just, as long as I can run no, like as long as I can run all the tests like for the entire repo without any dependency, that's kind of a nice thing, just like to test the logic without having to care about dependencies. But then if you want to test a particular dependency itself, you could also just spin that one, because that's probably what you're working on and you don't want to just do everything. However people want to achieve this, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. If anybody else has any feedback on that, suggestions, complaints. All right, sounds good. The next point is storage performance. I'm not sure what that is referring to specifically. Is that the slowdown that we saw on the proxy when we were testing it?
I think so. I think this happened when, I think we added that when we had our big hacking session a week and a half ago. When we finally made things work, we realized the proxy was actually slower with having everything cached, which was kind of like weird. But it turns out because we were saving all the modules in memory when we were getting it from MongoDB and all of that. This is kind of, I mean, not like, it's not a blocker right now, like everything seems fine, but it'd be really nice to have a way to benchmark different storages. I don't know, I don't have an architecture in my mind, so people are free to jump in and put down ideas, but I think it'd be really cool to say, to compare storages. I don't know if it's end to end or maybe just by process. And, it matters if you're testing locally and your GCP storage is, on the cloud, or maybe you're deployed in the cloud. And so GCP storage might have lower overhead for networking reasons. I'm not sure what the answer is what I'm trying to say. But I think the point of this bulletin is just to say, can we confidently answer that question of which storage is better? So I think this could potentially be an issue where someone could just spike it and do some research. And I don't know if there is an issue, but I could just create one.
Yeah, let's create an issue on that. But if I remember correctly, the other part of that was that certain storage backends can stream the data from them and others cannot.
Right.
I think that was an issue with Mongo, if I remember correctly.
Mongo had the option, we just didn't use it. And so one of my PRs switched to the streaming part, and it's obviously like now it's much better. Yeah. I think if one storage option cannot stream anything, in my opinion, that's just going to be a no-go, because we're not going to be able to use it to kind of load up big modules publicly,
Yeah.
Just think any big,
that's how
big
they have to go in memory. Right.
Yeah. So maybe the other part of that is that it should be maybe look through all of our implementations and make sure all of them have streaming capabilities. So I know we have like a lot of stuff I don't even know anything about, like RDBMS and whatever. I just don't know if they have, streaming capabilities. So maybe part of the issue is or it could be a separate issue, is to just go through our implementations, make sure they all have streaming capabilities, and if they don't, we could just remove them.
Right.
So I guess I'll make two issues.
Yeah, well, the next point on that is the cloud deployment with benchmarking storage. So that's something, that's also, I think, something we can do with some metrics around wherever we deploy some of these test proxies, store up or at least collect some metrics on that, see how they're going.
Right.
We might be able to find something with real usage as to what works better and what doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
All right, and then the redirecting strategy from proxy to Olympus.
I wrote that. I'll find an issue and post it in the notes about how proxy should redirect to Olympus. I think I want to challenge myself to find that issue right when we are talking. Oh, there it is. I found it. So I'll post it in here. Let's see. Okay, so if anyone wants to take a look at this, it's kind of a big comment, but it basically explains what I thought the redirecting strategy from proxy to Olympus should be. Right now, we basically don't have any redirects. Like proxy is the only thing that is working end to end. So it's really not end to end in terms of the entire Athens ecosystem. Basically, what we want is to kind of figure out when should the proxy say, get this from Olympus, when should it look for private modules, and Olympus should not know anything. So I don't want to take too much time and go through it now. If people want to, I'm happy to explain kind of my comment, but if you'd like, just read through this and then comment on this issue, because I believe some people already have.
The only comment I would have is this might need to be configurable. I know there's some companies will end up having information procedures where they've got to store everything locally. You know, get approval for each module that they want, and then they'll load it up into their proxy.
Right. Yeah, no, that's actually what I had in the comments as well. Not particularly your scenario. It might be really nice to add as well. But what I also had is, I mean, like I just can think of like, you know, my current company's example is that we have a lot of repos and we push to them constantly, you know, iterate fast and whatnot. And so having to store a completely duplicate version because we push like maybe 10 comments in a row, right? Like update, readme. We might not need to store these full repositories at each SHA, right? So we might want to have some configurability to say, you know, don't store every single SHA. Maybe do tagging only on the proxy, or maybe have some sort of configuration to say when it should store or something. So it's all up for discussion, and I think it's a pretty interesting problem to tackle. Is anyone okay with everything? Because that's kind of basically why I put that there.
Yep.
All right. If we're good on that, next one is adding some test repos. And this, I mean, that's just a good idea in general.
Yeah, no, nothing crazy on that. It's just we can add it and then look at our tests and always involve. We can feel free to use them. Carolyn posted a repo called dep importers under her username, which has a bunch of scenarios, like a bunch of tags and incorrect tags and interesting SHAs or whatever. And we could potentially just fork it or use hers, or we'll have our own scenarios. So it's just a matter of doing it, really.
Yeah, that's something we're going to want in our end-to-end tests as well. We're going to want broken repos, proper correct tags, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll be really awesome.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Then Marwan, yours is migrating some of the error checking from storage to
Yeah,
errors.
that's already done. I think that was put there from a while ago, so we can skip past that. But we've merged the PR, and if you see, I don't think it would have built if there was anything still there that is using the old error not found. So I think we're good on that. But I guess just a public service announcement. So we have an errors package, and so whenever we want to do some business logic when it comes to error handling, it's going to be all there, and hopefully we can always see what works and what doesn't, so it's still up for debate. What I wanted to kind of mention is that every time you run into an error that is unexpected, and so things blow up, but this error can be handled, like not found. We already have like a not found thing. Feel free to add a new error kind to just say, this is something we can catch and then do something about. So everything by default is unexpected unless we have a kind for it and that we check on that kind. So it's kind of the default behavior.
Cool. And next one is on the difference between the Olympus and CDN.
Yeah, I'd love it if someone explained that to me, because I keep struggling to figure out what the difference is between Olympus and CDN, because every time someone explains CDN, it just sounds like an Olympus replica. So maybe I'm missing something.
Well, Olympus is service, right? And it has a storage, like GCP or anything else. And the CDN works on top of the storage and is globally replicated, basically another service like Azure CDN or something like that. It just automatically works on top of this storage.
So I guess I'm just not an expert on that part. Does that mean someone has to write the CDN, or is it just, how do you put the CDN on top of that storage? I'm still confused.
Yeah, you just configure it. Like in Azure, you have a blob storage, and you can configure a CDN to work with this blob storage, so it checks and distributes everything, and it caches. It has some rules. The same thing you can do with Amazon, and also with Google Cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that mean you have to, when you configure something on top of, like, let's say blob storage, does that mean Olympus hits the CDN and does not hit the storage? Or can you actually configure it to the point of like actually having a download protocol on top of it with business logic, which I assume the answer is no, but I just want to double check.
No. But
So,
if you...
Go ahead.
No, download protocol not, but yeah, no.
So that means we just need to, that means our Olympus will just use the CDN. And so a user will never use the CDN directly. So that means proxy could go to the CDN directly instead of Olympus?
Yeah, because...
Yeah, Olympus is going to use that CDN to redirect. So like the zip files are going to be distributed across that CDN. And that way when Olympus checks in storage, it's going to know that we have that zip file, and it's going to get a URL that points to the CDN. So it just redirects the proxy, and just do normal redirect handling is going to take to that CDN, which is then going to grab it, of course, from the closest node. So I guess it's kind of transparent from the user side.
Right. So I guess my last question is should there, that sounds like there shouldn't even be any code knowledge of CDNs, right? If we just talk to the storage client directly.
Yeah, we have this base URI, on storage implementation, which basically defaults to the storage URI, and it can be overridden with a domain of the CDN.
Right. And so if it's overridden with a domain name CDN, there shouldn't be any logic that talks to both at the same time. It's always just talking to one.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So we don't really redirect to the CDN in that case. Like we never have to redirect to the CDN. Like when we talk to Olympus gets something. I guess I see what you're saying. So that if we're talking to the storage directly, we're not going to redirect to like, Mongo : / but if it's an actual URI, we can redirect to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That gives me a lot of knowledge that I just didn't know before. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
And okay, this point came up before, but the option to store tags only on the proxy, or some sort of limitation for the hash modules.
Yeah, sorry, I've already explained that. I forgot I had an issue there. So it's basically if people are constantly pushing to master in a company, and you have like let's say 50 repos and people are just pushing constantly, I feel like you're gonna have a lot of, I don't want to say garbage, but basically the same version of it's a lot of storage.
Right.
Yeah.
But if someone
If you're copying,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ron.
So I was saying if someone actually pulls that specific commit, that probably means that it's in use, right? I mean, I feel like those intermediate commits aren't always pulled in as a dependency until you actually reach a stage where it's stable or it has a new feature that you need.
The proxy, it's going to look to the proxy like you're using it each time that you build. Like if you update repo A and then you want to build B against it with the new commits, you're just going to run a go build, and then it's going to pull that new module. So it's going to pull that new hash. Right. And then the next commit on top of that, it's going to do the same thing. So if you're iterating quickly between A and B there, you're going to pull in A multiple times.
Exactly.
Got it.
And I think the key to that might be not necessarily blocking all of the hash, because that's going to be a setting anyway in the proxy, but setting an upper limit so that we internally garbage collect on that. Say, only hold 5 hashed copies of any repo.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
So it's always like every time you pull in a new, and it needs to be maybe pseudo aware, because maybe it should keep all the tags. But like when it comes to hashes, every time it gets a new one, if it just gets rid of the oldest one. But then but that might be a problem if a user is dependent on an older version and it tries to get it again. It might need to re-pull it, but it's like too old, right? So would it restore it again?
Yeah, I'd say we can do most used and recently used types on this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of options of how we can cache 9 different ways to Sunday, but that's if they're testing against a recent one and then going back to an old one, the old one really should be tagged. And just from a usability standpoint, they should have tagged that anyway. Like, this is a good build, tag it.
Yeah.
But we can't force that. So that's going to be something where we do go back and re-pull the same data.
Cool.
I recall we had a conversation that we will store tags only, but it was before I went for vacation for 2 weeks. So something changed on that?
I think that was just
proxy specifically. Yeah. Yeah. Proxy can store hash because that's going to be something we can set up for internal use, like in corporate deployment or even personal if you want. So that can handle hashtags, whereas Olympus should only be official tagged proper modules. Okay, if there's nothing else on that, we can move on. Cool. The next one is the better error handling from running GoGet internally. What subdirectories are unexpected?
Yeah, so right now, whenever you want to, the only way to get modules, we're not using the GitHub API, we're not using other APIs, we're just using GoGet, which is a really good thing, but we're running the command line, and so the problem is we can't catch different errors. So all errors that come from GoGet, they're unexpected errors. So there's no, when it comes to, if we deploy this, let's say in the cloud, we're going to see a crap ton of errors that seem like they're unexpected, but it's things like the subdirectory is a good example. So let's say you have an import file, and the import file is, say, GitHub package A, package B, subpackage C, right? GoGet tries to do that immediately to try and get that directory /C, and then it might error out, and then it will get rid of the subdirectory, and then it will go to, say, GitHub /A/B, and that will succeed, right? And so when it errored out the first time, it'd be nice to say, oh, it errored out because it was looking for, a subdirectory, and it can't pull a subdirectory. It needs to pull the entire thing. And so there's no way to check that. We might have to parse some strings or look for some strings in the output, in the standard error output. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it's just a thing to be aware of, is that any errors from GoGet, we can't handle them nicely yet. We might need to talk to the Go team and see if, we have different exit statuses or format the output in JSON. I don't know. I'm just not 100% sure yet, but I just wanted to bring it to people's attention, because the moment we deploy, we're going to have structured logs. And the whole idea of having those log levels is that, error not found, if we return error not found, we don't need to log it. We log it as a debug level, or maybe even info level, but we never log it as a warning or error level, because it would be nice to just go to your monitoring system and say, give me all the unexpected errors, and you just see what's going wrong with your system, as opposed to seeing just normal expected errors, right? So I don't have a solution. I just wanted to bring it up.
That might end up being a little bit of pain on those first deployments.
Yeah, I hope. I'm going to do some testing and see if I could find some sort of common patterns to handle like common errors.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be pretty.
All right. Part of the fun. Then should storage backend be able to fetch mod info zips separately?
That's just me. Just wondering. We can, command Go asks for these things separately. So
right.
They're totally separate requests. From what I noticed, it asks for /list or /info for all the packages, and then /zip for all the packages, and they're totally independent. And then starts asking for their mods to see their, dependencies of dependencies or whatever. So they're all separate requests, but on each one, we're asking the storage to give us everything. And so we keep having to close the zip reader if we're just trying to get the info, and close the zip reader if we're just trying to get the mod file. It makes implementing the storage backend easier. We don't have to implement 3 different methods. We just do a get, which is kind of nice. So I'm on the fence. I just wanted to bring it up and see what people think, if they think we should have, if storage backend should be able to get just a specific thing. Is that too much, or is that unnecessary?
especially as we start adding traffic, that's gonna add up really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why there's no way we could not stream the zip. Like, it would just not work, right? But the GoMod file, they're not too gigantic, but they can be. I mean, you know, they're okay. I don't know.
Right.
It's a thought. If maybe I'll open an issue and just people upvote or downvote and see what people think.
Would that split the get into different, the get info, get zip?
Yeah, it might just be called, yeah, exactly, get info or just info, and you know, hopefully it's clear enough. But yeah, then the storage backend will try to just get one of, not all of them.
The other thing on that would be, what do you think the priority is on that? Do we want to get that done immediately, or is that something we can look after the first deployment goes out?
I think we don't need it for beta. I assume that's when we know whether it's important performance-wise.
Right.
And I guess it's just a performance thing. The only annoying thing that is not related to performance is a potential bug where you don't close the zip, right? And so you need to always remember to close the zip, because closing the zip is what removes the temporary files. So you could have a memory leak, or I guess a disk leak, if you don't close the zip. So that's kind of that's just an annoying thing, right? Is if you just want the mod file, you have to close the zip, which they seem unrelated. Right. So it's not just a performance thing. So I think if people are against it, I would love to get some down votes. And so, you know, then we know there's we don't need to do that. And that sounds good to me. We'll just be careful, which is totally fine. But if people are totally okay with it, then, you know, whoever wants to pick it up or implement it, I don't think there is a big priority, in my opinion. So I guess the issue with the upvote, downvote is probably a good way to know what people think.
Yeah, that's a good start, and that can be put in the planning for after the beta release, and if we're going to go with that.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Wait, is Manu still here? Yeah, Manu brought up the next steps for tracing, specifically testing. That Brian had that on Twitch, correct? I think he's still got that. Yes.
There's no audio, but you could see it.
Oh,
there's no audio.
No. 1 second. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm trying to try out his Twitch, find out his Twitch channel. I couldn't find it. I think that was why I got confused. I could only see like videos/all, and I see 3 videos, which is all related to WebAssembly. Yeah. So yeah, so this is where I'm at tracing. Sorry, I didn't even realize. Okay. So this is where I'm at tracing. I have a pull request on Brian's buffet repo to get like normal context and not so that we don't have to typecast Buffalo context everywhere and just use it and create a child span everywhere. Once that is merged, I can basically do a big one commit which changes all of my existing work to use buffet. What I'm not sure of anymore is like, how do I go about testing Jaeger? Like, how do I set up a proxy and like, you know, hit Jaeger and see how the traces look like at the end of the day? That's where I'm getting lost at.
I can answer some of what you just said. If you, I can send you. I'll try to put the Twitch link. Do you have it already, or?
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, so if you, setting it up, I don't know if you've done that, but like setting it up locally and seeing the traces is, I didn't know how to do it, and then in the Twitch video, Brian shows you how. But the testing part, I am with you. I'm not sure how to test it, because we'd have to know the Jaeger API and make sure, like, we talk to the Jaeger API and assume the data is there. Because the way we do tracing is that we just send it data. We never get data and ensure that it's there. And so I think we might first, like, your PR to talk to for the Buffett module itself is probably a really good start, because I think we haven't even figured out how we want to use tracing before we even test it. Like how we're
Exactly.
like how we're gonna use it. How is it gonna provide something more than the logs are already offering? When Brian showed us Jaeger, it looked, pretty freaking awesome. So I would love to use it efficiently and like get some real good uses out of. Do we want to trace every single function call? Do we want to have a switch on and off for debugging? I personally just don't know how it can be used to really get some observability. Do we have all the money to just trace everything and not care? And whenever we want to see something, we can, look up that request ID. So to me, those are all the questions that I would love to figure out, or love someone like to help sort of put some
Same here.
thought into.
So I think for me, what I could do for now is basically, once Brian merges my commit in, update all the tracing points to point to Buffet and leave it at it, and work on something else, pick up something interesting, and we'll figure it out once we have a better infrastructure to test it out and like answer any questions.
Yeah, and that sounds good to me. I want to send you one issue where it might be potentially helpful. I believe Aaron opened it, and it was an idea of combining the errors operation with the tracing span. So instead of doing the errors operation,
yesterday.
Yeah, so maybe like we'll have one function to say, give me the operation, but internally it will also spin up like a Jaeger span. I'm not 100% sure how that would work, but it's kind of food for thought. I don't know if that works at all, or if you feel like that's an interesting thing to sort of.
Yeah, I was looking at your commit for GCP yesterday. So I think that made sense. It might be useful to like dynamically get like the function name, like Ruby. You can like probably inspect function name and like attach it to your op name.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen with Go. Yeah, you're going to have to write it. But instead of having to write that, then write the span, and then maybe whenever we have some other observability thing, we'll write that. Maybe we'll have like a function to say, start new operation, and it will give you the data you need, and you just write the one line on every function. I have an autocomplete. If I just write in VS Code OPERR, it just expands to constant operation equals error dot operation. So for me, it's not that hard to write on every function. But yeah, but the thing is, it's definitely up for discussion, and it would be awesome to figure out how these things would fit together. So feel free to experiment. And yeah.
And some clarification on his Twitch channel. All the stored videos say Go and WebAssembly.
Right.
None of them are WebAssembly.
It's the latest one.
That stream didn't get stored, didn't get recorded. But the streams that are recorded are all from the July 27th, when we had this big, like, huge pair programming festival.
Right. So that one actually has the Buffett part somewhere in the 2 hours of recording. I think it's towards the end.
I just looked at the title, so I did not even realize it was one of those.
Yeah, I know. It's the latest one that says WebAssembly, and I believe it has nothing to do with WebAssembly.
Okay, cool. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I can just go through it then.
Sure.
Yeah, he's fighting some new streaming software, so he wasn't. He was more focused on getting his audio fixed, which I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was the fight of the day for him.
Okay.
If you skip to when we started playing Type Racer, it's either right before it or right after it.
That's fine. Yeah, I remember Type Racer, so yeah. Cool. Thanks. Another thing that I'm not sure of is like how, like, I'm like pretty new to Go. Like, we have just one repo which I work on. So I've done depth once and forgotten all about it. You know, how do I start understanding the entire architecture of Athens better? Like, by architecture, I mean, like, what should I start reading through it, because the blog posts are pretty minimal too overall.
Yeah, I would start with the CMD package, and you can go like from there. The CMD is for proxy and all inputs, and basically everything we use, you can bubble from there.
Okay.
I will go like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And as we build out the readmes for each of the sub packages, that's going to help.
Hmm.
But wait. I think somebody put together a nice UML picture on what that's supposed to look like. I think that's in Brian's. Oh, that's right. Brian's given a presentation on it as well at GopherCon UK. So if that's recorded, that would be nice to look through as well. It's going to be a nice introduction. If not, we might be able to convince Brian to do that, to do it again and record it.
Okay. That's awesome. Thanks.
Cool.
All right, I'm gonna have to head out for a meeting because I'm a couple minutes late. But thanks everyone.
Thank you, Marwan.
I'll see you on Slack.
Good day.
Cool. I think that was it. Yeah.
Also, by the way, if you don't understand something or you feel like you're lost, just ping us on Slack, and I believe somebody will help out.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have any questions otherwise as of now. I'll keep on poking more questions as I try to look through the code.
Yeah, sounds good. And as you get those questions answered, don't hesitate to throw a PR into update documentation.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's helpful teaching and learning on that, that's something that probably should be thrown in the docs.
Awesome.
So
I'll definitely
either
do
you
that.
can add it or you can nudge whoever is answering the question that this is probably a documentation bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And we are not supporting Go 1.10, right? I just want to make sure.
Yes, it's getting backported to 110.
Okay.
I don't know how quickly those backports are going. So when working off of tip, it's just focus on tip, and then when the release comes out, then we'll be able to bounce the two together.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Makes sense. No more questions from me. So if anyone has questions or anything other than.
Yeah. Anybody else questions? Any issues come up that you want to decide on?
Nothing for me.
Nothing from me as well. I'm just getting the context from everybody talking. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and I will see you in Slack.
See you there.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.